guys. And roll the tide. Alright, first home game today. I just finished up about 3 weekends worth of scouting, so we'll bring that to you. I had a big intro planned out, but the scouting videos, which are mainly cyber scouting, ended up taking so much time up that I'm just going to cut it to a short intro. I broke it down into 2 areas. I broke it down into river bottom / swampy areas, and I broke it down into the hill areas that I'm used to hunting. Got some really good information, some really good spots on there. I think y'all will be able to maybe see and understand kind of where these beds are and what they're doing, what the deer are doing, and why they're doing it. These areas are all local here, so the people that know me and hunt around here, if you know, I appreciate any courtesy you can give me. That's it. Hey guys, here we go, man. It's first home game, a chill in the air, and we are about to be in the middle of hunting season. Happy hunting. Okay guys, here we are. We are back here on the cyber scouting video again. We're going to look at now is, I promised y'all oak mogi, and I'm going to get to it. But I've been doing a little scouting here, going towards the Tuskegee area. I noticed some pretty good things. Area I've never hunted, area I've never been. But what I do know about it is there are several similarities no matter where you go. If you have good hills, you're going to have good deer. The deer have a good way of being able to hide themselves. They're looking for a few things. Again, when you're scouting, you got to think about 3 things, because that's the only 3 things they care about. They care about their security and bedding, they care about their food, and they care about survival and breeding and making babies. That's what they do. It's a simple strategy you can use. You got to picture yourself being chased and hunted, but only doing it with the most simple thoughts. What are your best weapons? Well, I could smell you from 5 miles away. I can see you from maybe 10 yards away at best, but I can hear you at, I don't know, 150 yards or best. So, all that said, what's our way of attacking them? Well, in the swamps, we talked about going to the points, areas that nobody goes, and then sometimes overlooked areas that everybody drives by. A lot of that holds true. You know, you think about it, they don't use their eyes to decide whether a place is safe or not. They use your nose, and I can't stress that enough. Most people don't realize that. Oh, I got rubber boots, I got scent lock, I've got some kind of spray I sprayed on me. It's gonna make me glow in the dark, turn green, and have cancer in 20 years, and that's gonna fix everything. Well, no, you know, it's really not. You're not gonna beat that deer's nose, and if you do, I mean, what a sad day that would be. You know, I mean, you might as well just tie one up in the backyard and shoot at it when you get hungry. So their thoughts are survival, and they're going to use the terrain, they're going to use your pressure, my pressure, to their advantage. So the first thing in hill country you got to look at is how do we beat their best defense, which is their nose? Well, it's tough, it's hard. When you walk in hill country and any kind of place with any hills and valleys, it's tough. You got wind direction, you have thermals, and you have, on a year like this year, everything is dry, it's crackly. When you step, it's loud. There's just no good way to sneak up unless you know exactly where the deer's at. And this is why I hunt the bedding. Alright, So let's talk about the bedding. What do they do? Where do they bed in hill country? Well, luckily, that is almost like a mathematical equation. It is 2 plus 2, and it's always 4. 1 plus 1 is always 2. They're going to bed on the ridges. They're going to bed on the thick ridges. They're going to bed on the ones that they can smell as much as possible while they're asleep, while they're resting. So how do you find those places? Well, do they bed the same place every day? Probably not. No, absolutely not. How do they get there? Alright, let's start there. Transitions. One thing I have noticed is, especially your older deer, they use transition lines, and it may be as simple as a row of privet hedges that just go up to an area they want to go to, or the side where a pine thicket runs into the hardwoods. It could be as easy as tall pines going into hardwoods. It could be 100 yards off a main road. And they use their nose to decide this. So let's talk about that. So let's say we have a north-facing wind. You can rule out half of the territory if the wind's coming out of the north, because they're only going to be in certain places. Now you look at this map, and there's areas that are better than others, and this is actually outside. But if you had a northwest wind, I couldn't find a better place than a place that was a leeward side with a steep drop off and almost a little saddle created right there in a flat spot for staging. Now, that's not exactly where I would hang my stand, but they're going to want to lay somewhere where they can have the predominant winds coming over their back, thick behind them. It's got to be thick behind them. There'll be a tree, a big stump. There'll be something behind them that makes them feel safe, that nothing can see them. They're going to use your nose, but they're also going to try to block you from seeing them. They're going to lay on this tip at the exact spot where when the sun comes up, the wind's coming this way, the sun heats this valley, and that thermal is going to pull that wind straight up to them. And right here is a good spot, because it's going to come right up that ditch, and that little small spot right there, that's where he's at. If that's a thick ridge, there's a buck there. Now, what's going to say whether it's a huge buck or a little buck? Well, that's pressure. So you got to watch where you go in. You got to watch where other hunters come in, because the best thing to do is to pattern the other hunters. I know that was a quick run through. Let's take this northwest wind a little more serious. You get an area like this, these points, they love the points, the long, narrow points. You know why? It can be a primary bedding area. There's areas that are just food sources or best for the day, and then there's areas that are good for every day. I see right here, I see an area that you can just section off right here. Northwest wind blowing down this tip. So if you come in up here in any way, there's a road right there, and I'm sure this is going to work. They're going to set up so they can smell you no matter what. They're going to have that northwest wind. They're going to bed on this tip right where oh, you got two ditches too, that's good. Right where the thermals are coming up, them thermals are going to be pulling through these ditches. And that buck is going to say, wait, I'm right here. Wind's coming down, nothing can get me from behind. I've got thick cover behind me, and I can get right on this tip and look into these two ditches and straight down this hill, and nothing can get me in the front. And by that I mean, that morning when he comes in, you know, everybody wants to say, whoa, the bucks walk into the wind. Well, there's only one time when I know that to be true, and that's when they're going into their beds. That buck is going to walk. If this wind is coming in like this, let's say the wind's coming in right here. This is a straight out of the northwest, and that wind's coming in right like that. We'll just call that that. Call it good. That's wind direction right there. Alright, we've got that wind coming in there. Well, that buck is going to walk in. Even if he came from here, he's going to circle way over here and turn straight nose to the wind. And he's going to come up here and bed. And we're going to say he's bedding right there. Right on this tip. I'm just going to put a stand there for right now. So let's say he's bedded right there in that spot. Alright, so now he doesn't have much to worry about. You know why? Well, any predators that chase him in there, they're going to trace him by ground scent. So them coyotes, if they're chasing him, they're going to follow him down this ridge, and they're going to do that J-hook with him. And then they're going to turn, and they're going to go here. Alright, so he's got predominant wind coming from behind. He's got his back trail straight in front of him. So right now there is only one scent trail. And that's the wind coming behind him, blowing his scent down the hill. And it's also his ground scent coming in. So anything that's going to track him by nose, any animals, are going to have to level up with exactly where he's looking. So he's going to sit on this. He's going to look down. He's got his back trail down. He's got any predators that are coming after him coming down. He's got any of us dumb hunters are going to park right on this road every time. He knows where we're going to park. He knows we're going to walk right here and then come down here. And he's going to be in Brazil by the time we get there. So he's got it. He has got this figured out to such a level that you're never going to see him. Hence the part where he became a mature deer. So how do we beat him? Okay. Let's take this into account. We know for a fact that he's coming up that hill in the mornings. So do we hunt him in the morning? That sounds easy. If we're there when he gets there, if we're sitting right here when he gets there, let's say we're sitting right there and we've got our little stand and we're sitting there. That's easy, right? He's going to walk up, bed right here. We're going to shoot him with our bow. Well, again, wind direction. He's walking straight into the wind. The only way to get him is to figure out the exit trails. The exit trails, when you find a bed, are the only thing that you can trust. And the reason I say that is those are the deep trails. Those are the trails that have the rubs on them. Those are the places he does every night, going to that food source that a lot of people worry about. So let's look at this again. Now we know he came in from the bottom. Does that mean he's leaving from the bottom? Absolutely not. What I found is, well, that's a good one right there, by the way. What I found is they're gonna walk these ridges out. They're gonna stay in what I call, and what several people call, wind tunnel, thanks to Dan Infalt. They're going to stay where that wind from the predominant winds and those thermals meet, and it makes a little tunnel, and they can smell everything above them and everything below them. That happens everywhere in hill country. Everywhere there's a steep hill, and there's a predominant wind with heat, there's going to be that wind tunnel as the bottoms are being heated. So that's just something to think about. You know, you really got to, it's a lot of information to process. Just to break it down a little slower, so the wind's coming from let's say the wind's coming just directly out of the east. You know, you would look at this whole top 1/3. Don't go down in those bottoms. Oh, you say all them buck rubs are down there, all them scrapes are down there. There's tracks as big as trucks down there. I understand that. Those bucks are not down there. You know why? Because even they can't smell everything down there until you get to a thermal hub or something like that. They're not going to bother going down there because they want a consistent way to know if they're safe. They're going to stay on this ridge.
And when you see the high spot